Once I attended a lecture by Mr. Baojun. He mentioned that when Japanese managers assign work to their employees, they repeat the instructions at least 5 times. As we all know, most of the Japanese management practices stem from Western ideas, particularly from the thoughts of American W. Edwards Deming. How do they repeat it 5 times? Let me show you. The first time the manager says, "Watanabe-kun, can you please help me with this task?" After the first time, Watanabe-kun says yes and turns to leave. The manager then says, "Wait a minute, come back and repeat what I just told you." That's the second time. Watanabe repeats the task, then asks, "Can I go now?" The manager says, "Not yet. Let me ask you, what do you think is the purpose of this task?" Watanabe responds, "I think the purpose of this task is to ensure the smooth recording of this book." That's the third time. "Can I go now?" "Not yet. Let me ask you, what unexpected situations might arise while doing this task? In what situations should you report to me, and in what situations can you make decisions on your own?" Watanabe replies, "There are a few scenarios. If this happens, I'll report to you. If that happens, I'll decide on my own. Is that okay?" This is the 4th time. For the 5th time, the manager asks, "Finally, if you were to do this task yourself, do you have any better ideas or suggestions?" Watanabe might respond, "If it were up to me, I would handle it this way. Is that acceptable?" After going through this process 5 times, Watanabe might say, "Boss, if you don't let me go now, I'll have to resign. I can't take it anymore." The manager then says, "Go ahead. At this point, let me ask you, is there a high chance that the task Watanabe completes will meet your expectations?" In my classes, I see many students nodding in agreement, recognizing that this approach is indeed more effective. We usually criticize employees for their lack of execution skills. How do we usually scold them? "Did I ask you to do this?" The employee says, "I thought you meant for me to do this." The employee completely misunderstood the task. Or we say, "I assigned you a task, and it's been 3 days without any update. Where have you been?" The employee might reply, "I completed it. You didn't say I had to update you in 3 days." The funniest scenario is when an employee comes to me and asks, "Mr. Fan, how should I handle this?" I respond impatiently, "Why do you ask me about everything? What are you here for if you keep bothering me with questions?" The employee learns and says, "Mr. Fan has a bad temper, better not to ask." So they handle things on their own. When you come to check, you say, "Did you ask me about this?" You're quite bold to make decisions on your own. Have you noticed that no matter what the employees do, it's always wrong? You think your employees lack execution skills? Why is that? You should know that the most common phrase that Chinese managers say when assigning tasks is, "Don't make me say it a second time." While Japanese managers emphasize repeating the task 5 times, we tend to insist on not repeating ourselves. We hope for telepathy, that a single look can solve problems. But let me tell you, it is very difficult to cultivate a person who can solve problems with just one look. You and your spouse can't even understand each other with just one look, yet you expect your employees to do so. Therefore, the execution of employees is equal to the leadership skills of the leader. This is a very important concept in our course. Execution is a false concept. Many people give lectures on execution and sell books about it because they know bosses want their employees to have strong execution skills. However, there is no truly effective execution course. The real execution comes from the improvement of the boss's own leadership skills. Even if you learn nothing else from this course, but you learn to assign tasks by saying it 5 times, I guarantee your company's efficiency will improve significantly. Why? One of the biggest costs in a company is rework. Many tasks are redone repeatedly, completed incorrectly and then redone. Filling a hole, then digging it up again and filling it once more, the cost of rework is substantial. So, we have made it clear on this point, and we know that leadership can be replicated and instrumentalized. What is leadership? What is the difference between leadership and management? My personal understanding is that the psychological driving force behind management is fear. What does it mean? If you don't complete my KPI, I will deduct your pay. If you consistently underperform, I will fire you. I will make it public to the entire team, or even make you do push-ups to embarrass you during training. No matter what kind of measures are taken, you will notice that there is always an element of fear at the core. So these are management techniques. What is the core driving force of leadership? It is not fear. Let me give you an example. Shi Yush, when he was speculating on pre-sale properties in Zhuhai, he lost all his money in the speculation, which was a very famous case. After losing all the money, he said, "Let's call it quits. Everyone can leave. We're closing down." But his employees refused to leave, saying that they would still work with him, even though he had no money. They said that they had no money. What did they do? They went home, borrowed money from their families and friends, and each brought back 100,000 or 80,000 yuan to give to him, saying, "Let's start over. I believe you can do it." Why did these employees trust a boss who had no money? Were they afraid of him? It's not fear, obviously not. It's called respect and trust. So when you drive a team with fear, it's called management. And when you drive a team with respect and trust, it's called leadership. These are fundamentally different. The same principle explains why leadership is becoming increasingly important today. Do you think it's easy to make a young employee born in the 1990s afraid of you? It's getting harder and harder. In the past, it was very simple for us to manage those born in the 1970s. If someone bought a house, they would definitely listen because they had a mortgage to pay and were terrified of losing their job. They were constantly worried. Kids born in the 90s have parents from the 70s who have already bought houses. So they don't care as much. They can simply rent out their properties and live comfortably, even better than you. They are calm, composed, and have their own personalities. If you expect them to fear you, you won't attract good talent. Therefore, the key is to build respect and trust in the team, so that everyone is willing to work hard and excel at their tasks.